With a society that says men are the problem, discipleship is more important today than it ever has been before. And I think one of the most important things to call out is that discipleship really starts at home. Like a lot of people look at it as like this big scary thing. Like, oh no, God, I'm not cut out to go and talk to others. But if you look at it, really, it starts at home.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and I would agree that the whole going out and talking to people and that's definitely goes against my personality of being like just want to keep to myself. Don't want to go meet new people. But yeah, it starts at home. If you're a married man, and it starts with your wife. If you're a father, it starts with your children, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I think it's crucial. Like the points that were covered in this chapter, I think were extremely valid. Where Mr. Morley talks about, like when you disciple younger men, and if we can get young men right, then we can get marriage right. And if we can get marriage right, we can get family right. If we can get family right, then we can get church right. So I think it's super important because in today's society where they're looking at, it's like you watch anything online and the goofball is the dad. Like like the village idiot, it's the dad. And so it's demeaning. And I think it's causing a lot of problems. And I mean, one of the things that he even put in the chapter as well was like, we're painting this picture of like men are the bad guys in today's society, but everybody now would probably say like society was better 20 years ago.
Yeah, I would go further back than that, but yeah.
Right? When, men were men. Men were fathers.
And they weren't
husbands.
Yeah, and they weren't ostracized for being men and masculine.
Yeah, but I think we could probably even go one step deeper, right? To like I think men need to understand, and why it's so crucial for men to have mentors, like Christian mentors, is so that they can really come to terms and understand, like, what does it mean to be a godly man? What does it mean to be a husband? What does it mean to be a father? Like, what does that look like for biblical terms, right?
Right.
And so when you look at like what it truly looks like to be a husband, right? You ruffle lots of feathers with that one when you look at a couple of verses and people start saying, "Oh, you're the spiritual head of your household." But what does that look like, right? It looks like service. Like you're called to we as husbands are called to love our wives as Jesus loved his church. Well, how did Jesus love the church?
Unto death.
Exactly. So we are called to serve our wives, and our wives subsequently are called to serve and help us as well. Like it's a 50-50 equal. Like we're not higher than our wives. We're not, like there's none of that. But at the same time, we're also called to be the spiritual leaders. So what that looks like is, maybe you aren't the one doing all the praying, but it's your responsibility to be like, "Hey family, tonight we should say grace."
Right.
"Hey kids, let's go read the Bible."
Right. Yeah.
"Let's go pray before bed." And maybe like the wives are going to be the ones to maybe take up the mantle of like actually doing the reading and maybe actually doing the praying, which is actually something that I don't know if it was like a pre-marriage counselor thing, but before me and my wife got married, we had to go, because we wanted a certain pastor to do our wedding, we had to go through like a pre-marriage thing, course type deal.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that they actually brought up to us. So
really?
Yeah. I just remembered that's where I heard that from.
That's interesting. I never would have thought I would hear about that. Like you have to take a pre-marriage course.
Well, it was like to make sure that we weren't going to get divorced like 3 months later. And
oh, yeah, I mean, that's
because
fair.
we were pretty young.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like another thing that we can look at too is like we talked about, what does it look like to be a husband, but like what does it look like to be a father?
Yes, and especially with today's examples of fatherhood, especially on television, like you were saying, just like it's just a goof. He's just whatever, and right, we don't have any real examples of what it means to, like, there are examples on television and on the internet of what it means to be a man, quote unquote, but not necessarily what it means to be a father, and not necessarily what it means to be a godly father or a godly man.
Yeah. I know for me, even if you look at it, right, it's like, I'll give an example of what Patrick Morley gave in the book, right? It's like when you start looking at having kids, it's like, they're going to disobey you. And you're going to have to discipline them. And that you're going to discipline them out of love. But it doesn't like prevent you from wanting kids or seeing kids in a negative light. Like you just, they're learning. And so what Mr. Morley was getting at in his book is kind of like God looks at us in sort of like a similar light, probably, of like, he knows he's going to have to discipline us. He knows we're going to disobey because it's like sinful nature. Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of taken the approach for fatherhood of like understanding that my kids know that I serve God first. Like anytime we sit down at the table to eat, whether it's breakfast, lunch, supper, like we're saying grace first before anybody touches a bite of food.
Right.
And this same thing is like with discipline, right? Like I can't stand this gentle parenting thing because it doesn't work. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, like you don't have to like rail on your children with a belt or, chase them around with a spoon. Like you can be a strict parent and discipline your children properly without having to resort to actual like spankings. And there are things you can do, right? Like I remember I saw this video not that long ago, like this kid had like thrown a tantrum and like physically thrown his mom's cat. And so his mom made him throw his PlayStation on the ground.
Oh, jeez.
She was like, as hard as you threw my cat on the ground, you got to throw your PlayStation. And like, I bet he'll never do that again.
Probably not. Was it like a teen?
No. He was probably he was probably younger than 10 years old.
Holy. Wow.
He was crying. Crying.
Yeah, but back to discipleship, I think probably a common problem, which was discussed again in this chapter, is feeling like we are inadequate.
Yeah, to be teachers, yeah. I would agree with that.
It's kind of like when he said like, Lord, get away from me, like I'm a sinful man, like it's easy for us to kind of fall into that mindset when God starts bringing people into our lives that maybe he wants us to start discipling or but at the same time it's important that we kind of come to that place, because it's important that we humble ourselves before God, and like, because he wants to be in every aspect of our life, right? Like Jesus wants to be in every nook and cranny of our life. And so I think part of that is humbling ourselves before God and kind of clearing out the cobwebs, like throwing yourself before God and saying like, you know what, forgive me, Father, I'm a sinner. I sinned X, Y, Z, and through the blood of Jesus, I've been washed clean. But also understanding that like you are forgiven. And if God has called you to disciple somebody, like he's going to equip you.
And like, it's okay to make mistakes, right? Because you can always, if you make a mistake, you can always go back to that person and say, hey, like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake with this.
Yeah.
I said this when I should have said this, or I did this when I should have done this.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, it takes that humility to go back and to admit I was wrong. We have to learn somehow, right?
Yeah.
If we don't start somewhere, then we'll never get any better.
Yeah. And I mean, even to that end of it, right? Like like I said, like God's going to prepare you. Like he's not just gonna say, okay, go fight Goliath, right? Like David didn't jump straight to Goliath. Like he was watching his sheep, right?
Yep.
he had practice with the lion, right? And then, so it's kind of like God saying like, hey, you protected your sheep, now go protect my sheep. There's Goliath. So he kind of got like stepped up,
Right.
like a trial run almost.
Yeah, I guess suppose we could say that. Well, I have to admit that when I was reading this chapter, it was really grinding my gears because this chapter talks about stepping outside of my comfort zone, and so I was like, I don't want to do it,
Mm.
And so I was reading it, and I agreed with everything that he was saying. Discipleship. If we can get men right, if we can disciple them to be proper men, then they can become proper husbands, and they can become proper fathers, and they can lead proper families, and thus, the ripple effect happens, and things change, neighborhoods change, eventually cities, and so on and so forth. The cities will spread to the province or the state or whatever, and then the ripple effect will reach every corner of the country at some point, right?
Yeah.
And so I can agree. I agree with that, with what he's saying, that like a lot of the problems that we see in society today can be fixed with discipleship. It's not something we're going to see right away. It's definitely going to take a few generations before things finally turn around. That's my opinion, anyway.
I guess it depends, right? Like if by the grace of God, there's like a massive revival, right? It could happen in one generation.
No, it could, yeah. But I mean, like seeing change, like I'm not talking about like immediate changes, like like some things are getting better, but I mean like seeing stability, like that isn't just surface level, but like actual stability, and actual changes, like people who are Christian and they're godly men deciding that they want to run for office, or maybe they want to do something else to help in the community, and we actually start seeing real like bigger changes in the communities, in the provinces, in the government, so on and so forth. So that's why I say it's probably going to take a couple of generations.
Yeah, for that extent, for sure.
And for the ripples to start moving along and spreading, right? Because like we can reach the people around us, but how long will it take before God calls them and helps them feel more competent to reach out to people that they know, and so on and so forth? Or maybe they want to make sure that they have their house in order first before they start trying to take on disciples.
Yeah.
Like there was that one guy he was talking about before, right? Who was having issues with his wife. And he said, no, you got to go home and you got to get your marriage situation worked out before you can come back and start discipling. Right. So I agree with what he's saying. The discipleship is really important. It again was grinding. It was getting on my nerves because it's like, I don't want to go talk to people. But like we said earlier, discipleship doesn't necessarily mean talking to strangers, right? We can talk to our family who don't know Christ. We can talk to our spouses if we have spouses, and our children if we have children. It can start with those around us, and then as we get confident, and as God brings more people into our life, we can slowly branch out those are my thoughts, and that's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when we start to look at okay, that's easy to say, but like what does it look like? Like how do you reach out to people around you? Like how do you try to disciple your family if they're unwilling? And I think the answer to that is just like lead by example. When you have people over, how's your hospitality?
Yeah.
Right? How are you talking to them? How are you treating them? Are you talking to them with love? Are you treating them with love? Right? Or is your pride getting in the way? Because the more that we talk with love with our family, and the more that we show love to our family through hospitality and things of that nature, when we start walking like Christ did, because that's what he did. Like he showed like amazing hospitality everywhere he went. I mean, like he washed the feet of like his disciples, And so when we start to let it shine that way, and then, you kind of nudge, Like Patrick Morley said, you kind of just nudge them in the right direction, bless them here and there as they're talking. Say grace when they come over. Don't hide your faith. When they come over, if your family's not a family that says grace, say, look, you're in my house. In my house, we say grace before we eat.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be uptight about it or anything, but just say grace. Don't hide your faith. Make slow nudges, and eventually, I think they'll come around. It might be a slow burn, but
yeah, I would agree with that.
But I don't have anything else on the topic.
Well, I think I've covered everything I want to say.
Very short episode today, but that's okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. You can join us next week. We're going to be talking about the story of Paul, and I can't remember what the topic is. The topic is the principle of a surrendered life. So we'll see you over there. And if you're curious about discipling, or you have questions, or maybe you want to find a small community, we have a Discord down below. You can join. It's me, Caleb, a couple of others that we know. It's a very small community. But if you're looking for a group to start discipling, or you have questions, or maybe you want to be discipled, hop in. We'll see you over there.